The Great Patriotic War. 70 years have passed since it began. Soon our children and grandchildren will know about it only from books and films. The surviving soldiers of this war are now well over 80. With each year, with each day, there are fewer and fewer of them. And this war is getting further away from us, and less truth remains about it. The memories of the last surviving participants and witnesses in the series My Great War.
Nikolai Litvinenko, born in 1924, Junior Sergeant Signalman.
Citizens of the Soviet Union. Today, at 4 o'clock in the morning, without a declaration of war, German troops attacked our country, assaulted our borders in many places, and bombed our cities. Zhytomyr, Kyiv, Sevastopol, Kaunas, and several others. Moreover, more than 200 people were killed and wounded.
A few days after the war began, we 3 kids from the same class decided to go defend the motherland at the front. We ran around the city a bit, to the military enlistment office, to the flying club, but everywhere they turned us away. They said, "Don't get in the way. When the time comes, you'll be called up." I went to work, got a job at a military factory in Krasnoyarsk. There I worked in the foundry. I was very short, so I used boxes to stand on and work.
Back then, at the beginning of the war, the Siberian Kolya Litvinenko was 17 years old. At the factory where he went to work, they made shells for cannons and mortars. He was assigned the position of a shishelnik. He had to make blanks for shells. Shishki. Then they were cast in iron, and finished shells were made from them. At the factory, the production norm was 99 shells for cannons or 130 shells for mortars in 12 hours of work.
In the evening, when the shift ended, we worked 12 hours. There were almost no men in the foundry. I was the only one among the women, and the shop manager would come and say, "Litvinenko, stay today to pour the cast iron." And this stuck with me so much. It's not so easy to pour cast iron. I had to carry a ladle with molten iron, which weighed 6 puds, while I myself weighed 54 kilograms. You show to here. My knees are shaking, but the experienced foundry worker instructed, no matter what, don't pour the cast iron past the spout, because it splashes and burns everything instantly. After such work, my arm started to hurt. It turned out, in the medical unit, they told me that a muscle in my left arm had torn and moved down to the wrist here, and it prevents me from doing physically heavy work. I need to do lighter tasks.
And just a year later, when he turned 18, the draft notice came, and Kolya Litvinenko was taken into the army. He was sure that he would be sent to the front as a private right away, but unexpectedly, he was sent to study at a military school where they trained communications officers.
I didn't stand out in any way. I was short, and my weight was so small, and why I was enrolled in the military school, I don't know. Here I was in Krasnoyarsk studying at the Kiev Military School, and in 1943, at the end of June, I finished it. I passed the exams for the rank of lieutenant. We went to try on greatcoats, and they told us, wait, the certification will come any moment now. And suddenly, they urgently sent the whole school, almost everyone, to the front. And they sent all of us as privates, outfitted us, and sent us off. They promised that the certification would catch up with us on the way. But the certification, so many years have passed, and it still hasn't caught up with me. And so I, already a young lieutenant, served and fought for almost 5 years without stars. We were ceremoniously seen off from the school by a brass band. We were all already dressed in field uniforms, backpacks, greatcoats, bedrolls over the shoulder, and we walked along Stalin Avenue to the railway station with songs, "Arise, vast country." Along the street on both sides, people were standing. All of Krasnoyarsk came out to see us off. When we arrived at the station, we were directed and loaded into freight cars, as everyone was transported before. And the most impressive thing was, it was already night. No one was sleeping. No one was sleeping. The doors were open. We stood by the railing and watched. I looked towards the east, and the sun was just beginning to rise. Such a beautiful morning dawn. Blue sky, silence. And each of us was thinking about our own things. I was wondering, will I ever return here?
After they arrived at the front, the next morning so-called buyers came to their location. Officers from different branches of the military who were supposed to recruit soldiers from the reinforcements for their units thinned out in battles. Nikolai Litvinenko was taken into the rifle division, into the regimental signal company as an ordinary private. The documents stating that he was promoted to lieutenant never reached the front line. In this division, which fought on the Kalinin front, he experienced his first baptism of fire.
And without communication, you can't go anywhere. It controls the battle. And when it starts and the artillery preparation begins, everything, the communication is instantly. It's cut by shrapnel. And then you run along the line and somehow connect it. I wore out my teeth on the cable, because you strip it like this, duchok, and off you go. Well, as my father told me, try to get in with the old-timers, and the old-timers see that I'm asking them to show me how to do everything. And I learned that. So what was necessary? When laying the line, notice everything. Every crater, every hole, every stump, everything. And when you're running along the line during shelling, as soon as a shell whistles, you fall into a crater. In half a minute, you just you jump off and run further. Maybe that's what saved me, that I knew how to properly establish communication. Later, I had to teach young people how to behave on the battlefield.
Back then, in 43, communication in our army was almost entirely wired, unlike, say, the Germans, who by that time already had many radios. Without working communication between units, fighting is impossible. Panic and chaos ensue. You don't know where the enemy is, where your own forces are. You can't request reinforcements or adjust the artillery fire. That's why communication in war is sometimes more important than anything else. During battles under mortar and artillery fire, the wires were constantly breaking, and the commanders needed a working line at all costs. So the signalmen ran tirelessly, connecting the broken wires. And all this under enemy fire. And you can't wait it out, because communication is urgently needed. For example, one of the Orders of Glory was awarded to signalman Nikolai Litvinenko. Here is the official document of his award. For quote, during offensive battles, he repaired 56 damages to the telephone line. Later, during one of the enemy's counterattacks, the line was broken again. It ran in close proximity to the enemy. Red Army soldier Litvinenko stealthily approached the damaged area, fixed the fault, and then opened accurate fire with a submachine gun on the enemy, eliminating 12 Germans. These were some of the toughest battles in the offensive, when in 1944, their division, as part of the Second Baltic Front, was liberating Latvia. The division suffered enormous losses at that time. Nikolai Litvinenko miraculously managed to survive.
After the first salvo, when the Germans opened a hurricane of return fire, By the end of the first day, we had significant losses. We lost almost half of the infantry personnel. Out of 47 signalmen, in the signal company only 2 people survived. 41 signalmen died, 4 were wounded, including my friend next to me who was injured. And 2 remained at the regiment switchboard, Sergeant Ivanov. And on the battlefield, I was the only one left alive at that time. And again, here the skill of establishing a communication line. I considered myself a well-prepared soldier because I studied military affairs for more than a year during such a difficult time. At the military school, we studied for 10 hours a day, communication technology, bayonet fighting, and all other military sciences. Therefore, I was a more experienced, already professional signalman. Maybe that's why I managed to stay alive. But during my time at the front, I was wounded twice and had a head concussion.
According to Nikolai Litvinenko, signalmen often died because, unlike, say, the infantry, which was periodically replaced at the front with fresh units, they were not replaced. They continued day after day to repair the constantly breaking communication lines. In addition, snipers often hunted them, as they were easy prey. A signalman couldn't hide in the trenches for long, could he? He needed to go along the line, crawling, dashing, or even under sniper fire, to find the next break. That's how they perished. They were also often captured as prisoners. The thing is, the signalman was always on the phone next to the commander and, unlike ordinary infantrymen, knew about the entire situation both at the front and in the rear. Soldier. Therefore, he was a valuable catch. German scouts would cut the wires and wait for the signalman to come along the line, looking for the break. That's where they captured him.
Nikolai Litvinenko was lucky in that war. He did not fall into German captivity or under sniper bullets, but the work of a signalman on the front line was so difficult and dangerous that he was constantly on the brink of death.
Here, Sediato is the most terrible battle, such fierce fighting. It was in Germany during the crossing of the Oder River. Several times our forces tried to take it, but it was so fortified that the enemy wouldn't let us cross the river. And then on the 2nd of February, it was planned. A breakthrough group was formed. They decided that the breakthrough group would try. Maybe perhaps it would catch on somewhere. If not, then a small number would perish. This was an infantry platoon, about 40 people, led by the platoon commander, Sergeant Bardakov Grisha, Ukrainian. The regiment commander called me. He knew me well because I was an experienced signalman and had to provide him with communication at the observation post. He says, Litvinenko, you'll have to go and provide communication. And he said it in such a voice that I felt it might be the last time we see each other. I said, yes, Comrade Lieutenant Colonel. Provide communication. And in the morning, while it was still dark, they launched a small artillery barrage. And we ran across the ice to the edge of the shore. By this time, the Germans had noticed and opened fire on the other shore. Not so much at us, but at the other shore. They couldn't quite make us out who was there and what. And at this time, the platoon commander says, Litvinenko, go. Inform the other side to shift the artillery fire slightly inland on the enemy's shore. And at this time, the connection was cut. He says, it's urgent, otherwise our artillery will hit us. I take everything off. I remain in just a tunic. They tie a cable under my arms. I say, one at the reel, guide the cable and don't let the reel get tangled, because then I won't be able to move forward and I won't run back. When I dashed onto the ice, it was already visible. The Germans saw me running on the ice and opened crossfire. They are targeting me. I reach the edge of the ice, and there's water. I didn't even stop for a minute. I went straight in, head first. The hat floated up and drifted away, and I started paddling with my hands in the icy water. And then, probably 3 or 4 meters from the shore, I didn't make it. I was seized by cramps and started swallowing water. I was already exhausted and very cold. At that moment, the division commander, Major General Rodionov, was observing through a stereo tube when he saw that I started diving back and forth. He shouts over the radio, "Save the signalman at all costs." Well, maybe it wasn't the signalman who was so valuable, but the line was needed. I don't know if someone pulled me out with a pole, or maybe someone jumped into the water to get me, but they pulled me out. After some time, I, of course, came to my senses. It turns out they had already detached the cables from me, connected them, and the line was working. That's it. And they shifted the fire. Soldier. And after lunch, I was already on the other side. They found me some kind of uniform, not sure if it was from the dead or someone else. Here I dressed in dry clothes, and to the other side.
According to Nikolai Litvinenko, a simple signalman's lot on the front line is unenviable. There's a lot of work, but it's unnoticed. Commanders, unhappy with the constant lack of communication, are always scolding. And you have to drop everything, and at any moment run, even under fire, even into icy water, and set up the line. If the Germans, for example, had a special toolbox with them, and their cable was excellent, and they always went in pairs to avoid capture, and to help if a partner was wounded, our signalman usually ran to the line alone. He did everything with his hands, teeth, and ingenuity. And he cursed our cable to no end, because its insulation was terrible. It quickly got damp, and the connection soon failed. The signalman also had no right to lose his equipment, risking his life, but carrying a heavy reel with cable weighing 20 kilograms and a telephone from the battlefield. This, by the way, is very well shown in the film Ballad of a Soldier, directed by the frontline filmmaker Grigory Chukrai.
Yes, I am Ziblik. I see tanks. 4 of them. They are coming right at me. No infantry. Exactly. Should I retreat?
The main character, a signalman, escapes from a tank, but does not drop the reel that hinders his running, even though it could cost him his life. Only those who fought on the front line understood why. At that time on the front, Smush had strict laws. If you lost equipment, you would be court-martialed and sent straight to a penal battalion. Or worse, you could be accused of cowardice on the battlefield, and then a public execution. Nikolai Litvinenko himself had to be present at such executions more than once.
In the summer of 1944, around June, it was probably warm. We were in defense and heard that they brought in self-shooters to the dugout. So there was one boy, he was still young, I don't know, maybe from 1926. There he was. And the second one was already an elderly person. That's how it stuck in my memory. Bondarchuk Mefodi Afanasievich, born in 1911 from the Oriol region. He was a self-shooter in the hand. And so they took some people from the front line. Well, maybe there were about 50 people. They lined us up in 2 ranks. I was standing on the right flank of the first rank, and a little further away, the regiment commander read out the sentence of the highest measure of punishment for cowardice or something like that. Totio, the sentence was to be carried out. They brought him out opposite in the middle. He said, "Oh, brothers." And they replied to him, "What kind of brother are you to us when you are a traitor?" There. And just as the line was ending, the sergeant shot him in the back of the head. That's how they executed him. And the bullet somehow went from top to bottom. And I saw how the bullet fell out of his mouth. Out of his mouth. It lost its force, but it fell out of his mouth. Here. And he fell on his back. and blood started gushing from his mouth like a fountain. Yeah, few people spoke up, standing there. And then the sergeant asked the regiment commander, well, what now? How to bury them or not? He says, no, right here. Cover them with a little earth so there are no flies, no infection. Let them stay here. That's how it happened twice during my military service.
During the existence of our series, we have talked with many veteran frontline soldiers, and usually, each of them has a story, memories about the most difficult and most memorable battle. Many call it their finest hour, when it was very frightening, but at the same time, there was exhilaration in the battle, and everything worked out against death. A similar battle was experienced by Nikolai Litvinenko. It happened right after crossing the Oder and lasted almost 2 days. Nikolai Yevgenyevich still remembers it minute by minute, in the smallest details. We present this story in full, without cuts, not overlaying it with newsreels. It is so powerful and vivid that at some point there is a feeling of complete presence, and no chronicle is needed here. And this battle began for Junior Sergeant Litvinenko with hand-to-hand combat.
The commander shouts, hold on, and they have a small PPS submachine gun, 32 bullets, and the Germans are coming with bayonets. And the soldier, an infantryman who was running about 4 or 5 meters away, I see, fell, and it turns out that a mine hit a branch, exploded in the air, and hit him in the left eye. He turned it all out. He fell on his back, and blood was gushing like a fountain from his eye socket. And next to him was a rifle with a bayonet, detached. I jumped up, grabbed that rifle. Well, maybe ran another 6 or 7 meters, and 4 Germans separated and came towards me. I can't say what happened to me, how it happened. I instantly, in a moment, one there, another here, I stabbed 3 Germans with a bayonet, and I'm unharmed. And then, the 4th one turned halfway towards me, and I raised my bayonet like this, and there were only about 20 centimeters left to him. At that moment, he turned around and felt such a deathly horror on his face. I still see his face and know that he knows. And I know that nothing can be sacrificed, turned away. When I struck him, and that distorted face of his, that deathly horror, it affected me. And for a moment, I seemed to hesitate. This almost ruined me. I knew that the human body has the property that if you stab with a bayonet, you must pull it out immediately. If you hesitate for a moment, the body grips the bayonet like pincers, and then you have to use your foot to pull it out. Oh, with a foot on it, they pull it out. That's what happened to me. Well, we dashed into the house, the master's house, when my automatic weapon ran out. Well, as I had very few bullets, the signalman didn't need them much. I grabbed the German carbine and started shooting. In the windows that destroyed 16 more Germans, I remember the 16th, and close, at a distance of 4 to 5 meters. There was a small asphalt alley around the house, and they were behind the trees in coats. He takes aim, and one of them from behind the factory takes aim in my direction. So I slightly move the curtain with the carbine and look for the most convenient target. They can't see me, but I can see them. And as soon as he sticks his head out, I go click. But what were the German carbines for? Exactly. And the bullet hit him right here. Then we looked already. When we fought back 2 days later, I went to see my German, and what awards he had. I used to collect those crosses, all of them. I had a whole bag of them from those I killed. Well, and this, the ammunition ran out, and I didn't say anything to anyone. But it's not like we're sitting here talking. Their shells are exploding. Mines are going off. Shooting is happening. I decided that with all this noise I wouldn't be noticed. I dashed out of the house, and 5 or 6 meters away lay the German I had shot. I'll grab at least a couple of ammo pouches. Next to the main doors, there was a so-called back entrance. A small narrow door. This is the exit from the semi-basement. So I went through that entrance with a carbine, indeed, in my hands. Just as I jumped out of the door, there was a huge German officer standing on the front porch. He was breaking down the door to get inside, with soldiers behind him. And I just lifted my head. As soon as he saw a Russian soldier, he immediately shot with a pistol, and he shot me point blank, well less than a meter away. But I know, Germans always try to shoot in the stomach. It's fatal. The person is still alive for some time, but you can't save him anymore. He will be dead. But his hand, it seems, trembled, and instead of hitting my stomach, he hit my right leg, right here, and it went through. I'm still okay, but then he pressed it a second time. These were seconds, and the shot didn't follow. It turned out he shot me with the last bullet. And what was surprising was that he didn't have a military pistol, but a Belgian second model. Why? I still don't know. The bullet was small. Maybe I was lucky that my leg remained intact. It didn't hit the bone. I was so enraged there. Without paying attention to anything, I grabbed the carbine by the barrel and hit him on the legs. And I saw his legs buckle, and he fell towards me. I was on him, and he was clearly in such pain. His bones were broken. What was that? And he had a beautiful German naval dagger hanging on him. And I grabbed that dagger by the handle, I don't know, and tore the sheath or something. And these are seconds. And when I hit him right here, where the chin is, I even felt how the cartilage or whatever it was crunched. And so with a swipe, as they say, all the way down. Oh, and you know, my hand smelled for a couple of days. What he ate, the German, I don't know. But you couldn't bring your hand to your mouth there. And at that moment, they realized I was missing. And the guys rushed out, grabbed me by the arm, saw that I was bleeding here. And again, they barricaded the door. They say, Yato, you now sit by the phone. And the line is working. I laid the line. Watch, there was such shelling, but the line was working. I laid it sort of in a ditch. So I laid it, and the line was working. The regimental commander shouting to the receiver, Litvinenko, Litvinenko. Hold on, hold on. Reinforcements were sent. However, the reinforcements only arrived late in the evening. Machine gunners came, brought several machine guns. But since our garrison was very small, we were in the house. Okay, we were surrounded in the house. So we don't let the Germans get to the doors. We shoot through the windows. They set machine guns here, what they do, machine guns in the windows. And we held out for 2 more days with such a garrison there. And I was not bandaged. You see, I knew army stories. that the best remedy when there's nothing else is urine. Unbutton my pants and right there on the wound. And that's it. And you know, my leg healed without any medics in just a few days. I limped for about a week, and as they say, it healed like on a dog. Infection did not get in there because I was wearing a German felt boot, and the bullet went through, got cleaned, and the wound turned out to be clean there.
For this battle, Nikolai Litvinenko was nominated for another Order of Glory, second class. Here is the document about his award with a description of that very hand-to-hand combat. It was February of 1945, and in April, at the very end of the war, he was seriously wounded. What was frustrating was that it happened not during a battle, but in a lull, when he was calmly, without any fear, laying a communication line from the headquarters to the front line.
When I was setting it up, near the house where we were running the line into the basement, there was a little tree. I don't remember if I used a box or something else to stand on to tie it higher so the connection wouldn't be broken. And I lowered the end there. On the 8th of April, when we decided to wrap things up, I got a bit lazy. I thought, why should I climb up to untie it? I'll just tear it off, and that's it. And so I wrapped the end around my left hand. And just as I wanted to grab it with my right hand, suddenly, and on the tree, it turns out there was a tension-activated mine. And the tree saved my chest and head. But with this hand, the one I wanted to grab with, a large fragment flew into it and severed the blood vessels. And then I fell, blood was gushing. I immediately lost consciousness, and then I come to with a lot of blood around me. I look, and the veins are sticking out a little, white, as I see now. And it's spurting like a fountain from one and the other. I found some twine from bags in the trash, tied it around this place there, and I'm holding it. And I think, I don't know where the medical unit is here. I think, let me run to my unit. That's it. It was quite far along the front line, and I fell a couple of times on the way from blood loss. Then I got up again and went on. Well, I arrived. They took me to the medical battalion, straight to the operating table. Captain Pershina operated on me. I remember her well. And the nurse, who was called Fenechka, she said, Fenechka quickly gave him the mask and anesthesia. Just as she sprayed, the surgeon grabbed my hand, and there, I shouted, wait. I said, I haven't fallen asleep yet. I said, does it hurt a lot? She said, Fenechka, give him more. And I didn't know what to add. It turned out they dripped more anesthesia, and that was it. And then something buzzed somewhere. And then I woke up. Fenechka was standing there, lightly tapping my cheeks. I still hadn't fully come out of the anesthesia. My arm was bandaged. They had it in a sling. And so I stayed in the medical unit until the end of June. Here, it turns out my blood vessels were severed.
It was a serious matter.
It seemed like a small wound in the arm turned out to be very serious. It severed vessels and tendons. The arm almost didn't work. The young soldier was afraid to return home as an invalid. And despite the fact that the war was over, he asked the doctor not to discharge him, but to keep him in the ranks.
And so, you know, there was some kind of suggestion or something. I imagined how I would come home at 21 as a disabled person, when 3 years ago I was still a kid there, and I got scared. And I started asking the surgeon, I said, listen, the war is over now. Nothing too scary. My job will be as a communication specialist. I can work at the switchboard. Helma could help me a little with my arm. my arm wouldn't fully straighten at the elbow. It was contracted and wouldn't straighten. So that, and I say stay. And I wouldn't be mobilized with my ear. He looked at me and laughed. He thought, oh, you silly. But I was serious. And he helped with all of it. He even helped me to work on my fingers, as they were all twisted, neither here nor there. Well, he said, let's do it. Well, then I served in Austria. You know, at the switchboard, I had to serve for 2 more years. I didn't know that. I served for 2 years and wasn't demobilized with my year. In April 1947, it all ended. There's nothing so terrible. My job will be, as a communication specialist, I can work on the switchboard. Help me a little with my arm. My arm wouldn't fully straighten at the elbow. It was pulled tight and wouldn't straighten here, so that, and I would, have stayed, and I wouldn't have been demobilized with my ear. He looked at me and laughed. He thought, oh, you oddball. But I was serious. And he helped with all of it. He even helped me to work on my fingers, as they were all twisted. Couldn't move them this way or that. Well, come on, he said. Then I served in Austria. Here, I had to serve on the switchboard for 2 more years. I didn't know that. I served for 2 years and was demobilized with my year in April of 1947. Here.
Nikolai Litvinenko is a full holder of the Order of Glory, the most prestigious soldier's order. It was awarded only to privates and sergeants for heroic deeds. Officers were never awarded it. This order was made in analogy with the St. George's Cross, which was given for bravery to soldiers during the First World War. The Order of Glory had 3 classes, and they were awarded sequentially, starting from the 3rd class and ending with the most prestigious 1st class. But Nikolai Litvinenko has not 3, but 4 Orders of Glory. He was given another order for battles near Riga during the liberation of Latvia, but no one knew about this. The documents were lost during the battles, and the information about the award was accidentally discovered only 50 years later in 1999. So now Nikolai Yevgenyevich calls